Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Rebecca Deng, and I am the US lead for the Women in Programmatic Network in the US. And I'm so happy that you're here for today's panel entitled Empowering Women in Digital Media and Ad Tech. This conversation is co-hosted by the Women in Programmatic Network and AdMonsters. The Women in Programmatic Network is a nonprofit community dedicated to increasing the pay, power, and parity of women in the ad tech community through
Woo woo.
programming, peer support, and advocacy. And AdMonsters is a leading community and resource hub for ad operations and media professionals, known for delivering practical insights, events, and networking that move the industry forward. We're excited to bring these communities together today to spotlight the voices, challenges, and successes of women in this space, and to explore how we can do more inclusive, empowered work in the future. I'm now going to pass it over to Lynne D. Johnson, who's the content director at AdMonster, to introduce our powerhouse panelists.
Hello. Thank you, Rebecca. That was a great intro. I'm so happy to be doing this with Women in Programmatic and very excited about doing this with the three women we have here today. These are women who are leaders in the ad tech space, driving product strategy, guiding ad tech transformation, and making real change in how our industry operates. First, we have Glenda Bautista-Baker, who's the Senior Director of Product at Penske Media Corporation. Glenda and I go way back. I've known her before my AdMonsters days. We actually were on a panel together at South by Southwest called How to Rock, RAWK, or something like that. How to Rock South by Southwest. Yeah, yes, and this is what we did the whole panel long. There's some other things happen I won't get into. But anyway, I've known Glenda for a long time. Next up, Ellen Parker, who's the founder of Ellen Parker Consulting and host of the Programmatic Digest podcast. Hi, Ellen. Say hello to the folks.
Hello.
Known Ellen for about 2, 3 years now. We are both fangirls of one another's podcasts
That's
and
real
work
talk.
in the space.
Mhm.
Steph Laser used to be one of my favorite publishers who is now on the vendor side. So we still have love for her, of course. She's the global head of publisher ad tech solutions at AWS. Steph, say a little hello for the folks.
Hello, happy to be here.
Okay. We had a prep call earlier this week. I thought it was wonderful. It was great. Hopefully, you guys have the same energy you had earlier this week. We talked about AI, automation, product strategy, leadership moves, how to make space for others while you're climbing to the top. We're going to dive into all of that. But before that, I would like for each of you to talk a little bit about what a typical day looks like for you. I know I didn't prepare you for this one, but you know what you do every day. Ellen, I'll start with you. What does a typical day look like for you besides working with your little coworkers in the back?
Yeah, the coworkers are definitely a big part of my day. But hey, everybody, I'm Ellen Parker. I'm the founder of Ellen Parker Consulting, and we are education consultancy. And so my day to day looks like this morning we had a group coaching call. Every other day, I have a group coaching call. I offer memberships for some of the programmatic ninjas on the buy side and sometimes on the ad up side that get to join, and then we learn together. And then we have a handful of agency clients where we do about the same. Either it's like a weekly training or it's a bi-weekly training with their team. And so I know you said day to day, but like my week looks like a little bit like every other day I have a group coaching call, whether it's individual or whether it's with an agency client. And then it will be a little bit of marketing for the company. And then it will be lately it's been a lot of business development because I realized like I gotta sell something. But most of the time, I would say 75% of my day revolves around helping somebody, connecting somebody to somebody else, or sending somebody a free training here that I've recorded in the past, or getting on a call in a one-on-one to help them just break down their day and just, you're not crazy. You don't own your mistake. This happened one time. Let's move on. Here are your tools. Talk to this person. That's what my day-to-day / week looks like.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot.
It's a whole lot, but I feel
Yeah.
extremely blessed and grateful to even be able to walk the path that I'm walking, even though sometimes I feel like it's bigger shoes than I can handle. But I just got to keep moving. I just got to keep going forward. So I'm super grateful to be part of this panel one and just to be able to do what I do.
All right. Glenda, you have been in this industry for over 2 decades. Yeah, I'm sorry I had to phrase it that way.
Dang.
But that grounds us in perspective here for
Yeah.
over 2 decades. You have a lot of time in the industry. What does a day-to-day look like for you, and what has your path looked like as you've gotten to where you are now?
I can be honest by saying I amble into my day-to-day being down for anything because that's what it's like. And that's what my path has been like. I just stumble into things, problems, things that don't make sense, and I just attack them. And I think that my day-to-day is really, it's nuts and bolts, a bunch of meetings, but when you think about just like somebody that does product, it's enabling people to build things or solve problems or partnering with people to like generate outcomes. And a lot of that is really driving value for the business, discerning as to whether or not an effort is actually worth it. But I think a lot of trying to figure out whether or not something's actually worth it is to really be open-minded about all the opportunities that present themselves to you. And so I think I've built my career in ad tech a lot like that. Nobody like goes to school and goes, I want to do ad tech. Exactly what happened to me. And I haven't left for a really long time. And it's because there are so many problems in ad tech worth solving. I happen to just concentrate a lot. And so I have experience on both the buy and sell sides, but I tend to lean on the sell side because my previous background, as Lynne might mention, is that I have a heart for journalism, a heart for discovering the things behind the things and digging in real deep. And for me, that background enables me to enable publishers, or the people that the publishers are mainly the folks that I tend to run with. Not to say that I understand the buy side pretty well, problems, but I imagine I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later on.
All right. And Steph, to you, tell us a little bit about your background and what your day-to-day looks like.
Sure. At AWS, I am an industry specialist that's focused on monetization. And because of my background, I focus a lot on ad tech. So my day-to-day, there's a few different things that I do a ton of at AWS. One being I meet with a lot of customers. So I meet with our media, entertainment, games, and sports customers. So that can be anyone from the largest streaming TV publishers to web publishers to gaming companies, and talk to them about how they monetize, how they can build their advertising business, how they can take control and make sure that they are empowered to generate more revenue through the ecosystem. And then I also have a lot of partnership conversations, right? We're very lucky that a lot of the independent ad tech ecosystem is built on AWS. And that means that we can connect the dots a lot of times between customers. We have customers and partners, and those customers and partners, many who are in the ad tech ecosystem, we're able to connect them with our mutual customers on the sell side. I spend a lot of time doing that. I also spend a lot of time, if anybody or you have ever worked at Amazon, that we don't do decks, we don't do presentations, we write papers and we do docs. And so I spend a lot of time writing. And in the things that I write, I talk a lot about where we see the general direction of media, entertainment, games, and sports going from a monetization perspective. What does personalization is a big thing that's happening on the sell side. What does personalization look like for monetization from a sell side perspective? And how do we balance all of the different ways that publishers make money? Those are some of the big things that I've been writing and talking about lately.
Wow. I'd love to read some of those papers. Are those only internal papers or?
So they're mostly internal papers, but internal papers then become external decks because it turns out people typically to have a presentation or a one-to-one presentation about that. But yeah, it's all about as I was when I was on the publisher side, it's all about empowering media, entertainment, games, and sports companies with the right data, the right infrastructure, the right processes that help to supercharge their business.
Okay. I know that everyone came here today to hear all about what it's like being a woman in the industry and how can you
Right.
help more women in the industry. And we're going to get to that. But as I once told the founders of BlogHer one time, was like,
Ah,
I don't only want to be on a session
Yeah.
because I'm Black, because I'm LGBTQ, because I'm a
Mhm.
woman. I want to be on a panel that shows my expertise
Mhm.
as well, that shows my expertise. So I want to dig into a little bit of each of you guys' expertise. And I think one thing we could look at is some of the challenges going on in ad tech right now. And Steph, I know that at AWS, you guys are helping publishers navigate many of the shifts, particularly with AI and infrastructure. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think over the past like 15 to 20 years in kind of the growth of programmatic advertising, we've seen publishers lose some of their ability to control kind of the outcomes and control the ad decisioning or control the data, right? Or control the many pieces that have ran their advertising businesses, right? And AI presents both a risk and an opportunity for a lot of them. One being the risk is, do distribution channels start to erode? And if those distribution channels are eroding, how are we continuing to interface with consumers, right? And therefore be able to monetize those consumers. That is a risk, but then there is also the idea of the opportunity, right? So we have spent a long time where direct ad sales was incredibly manual, right? So from being able to pitch all the way to being able to get payment. When you start to talk about the developments in workflow automation, you start to look at, can direct advertising be even easier, even more simple? And so when you start to say, what does the advertising ecosystem look like in 10 years, right? We see a very agentic type of future, right? Is it a buyer's agent and the buyer's agent is uploaded with their customer data, with their return on ad spend goals, with their enterprise data? And then maybe on the sell side, what do they have to offer? What's their availability? What's their product? What's their customer data, right? And then do those agents negotiate with each other and actually talk to each other and facilitate more of that direct one-to-one relationship between both the buyer and the seller? So we've been like dead set and concentrated on what are the data foundations that are needed to enable a future that maybe looks like that? And how do we make sure that media, entertainment, games, and sports customers keep control of that data, the most valuable, precious asset that they've always had, and be able to make sure that they're continuing to facilitate powerful outcomes for advertisers, but also good experience and quality experiences for consumers.
That sounds so wild to me that we will have no, just
Who knows, right?
the
What's the
thought
future?
of the AI, the buyer AI agent talking to the seller AI agent. I think that what most people will be concerned about are that some jobs will be lost. But I'm thinking that there'll be other specialties created.
Yeah, I think actually the US has very much been on the forefront, and we want to continue being on the forefront of technology. We were at one point a big manufacturing economy, right? And then as technology continued to grow, we became more of a technological society. And with that, the upskilling of it was very important for us to upskill folks, right? To be able to make sure that they're able to do higher level type of jobs. What I don't worry about is losing jobs. I feel like new jobs happen, right? New jobs happen, new development. And I think we as people who are in technology need to always be prepared for what that next thing is, and upskilling ourselves and being curious and asking the questions and learning and finding new opportunities, because that's what's going to help prepare us. We shouldn't be so scared about losing jobs. We should start to be prepared for, what is my next job, right? What do I need to learn and understand to be prepared for my next job?
That's tea, Stephanie. That is tea. Okay, so I want to stay here grounded in what's happening with ad tech today, although I
Mhm.
know we're going to talk more about AI, automation, and all of that. Glenda, to you, I say, looking at how Penske covers a wide range of verticals, how are you thinking about product innovation that meets both the editorial and advertising needs?
Well, so I think a lot of publishers fear AI off the bat, and the reason for that is AI will be writing the content and we'll be spinning willy nilly. That is not the way that the Penske Media Corporation actually applies AI or generative AI. It really, our POV is really to get AI to do the jobs that we shouldn't be doing, right? The constant classification of like archives. Who's going to look at all those archives? Who's going to look at all those URLs? Who's going to make them monetizable? Certainly not somebody at the computer like typing tags into a screen. That might be it, like from short-term perspective, but when you try to call all the data points like across
Mhm.
histories of media companies, who's going to do that? No human. Okay. And so those are opportunities to leverage AI, right? So it really is a shift in trying to like Stephanie said, like trying to not think about, oh God, AI is going to take my job. That's not it at all. I think that if you are doing something and you're like, this could be really made better, and this is not a great use of my time, that is when you should think about all of the various ways in which you can innovate that task to be accomplished so that your time is best invested somewhere else.
So good.
So again, AI really, from our perspective, is not anything to fear. It enables you to do things that ultimately you don't want to do. One, two, a lot of information can be called in a faster manner by leveraging AI.
Mm.
Again, I don't necessarily think AI is anything to truly fear. We do use it particularly to, again, look at our content, spin up various ways in which what our content is found across the web, and we play that content game with AI. That is, in a nutshell, our approach at PA.
Okay. Ellen, I know that on your side, you speak to from being on the buy side and having the consultant lens, you have a lot of clients and they get stuck on things and they are stuck on the idea of AI and what it means for them since
Mm.
we're on this AI tip right now. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I agree with both what Glenda and Steph are saying. Is that there's something part of your job right now that you're doing that you don't like to do. Let me call out the whole taxonomy game. Period. Who wants to keep doing this? And if you're not familiar with taxonomy, for my friends on either side, is how come I explain it to a 5-year-old? Is basically going in and categorizing every single placement, ad group, line item, targeting, audience, contextual relevance, brand safety on the buy side, using tools to help you automate things so that when you're reporting at the end of the day and when it comes to billing, it's easier for you to filter. And I'm really simplifying this, but nobody likes to do this process these days. If you
Boom.
do, please, this is your moment to step up and raise your hand and tell us you love doing this. We won't be able to see because this is not how StreamYard works. Anyway, drop me a DM. But ultimately, this is what to answer your question, this is what I like to tell our clients is that see AI. I think we mistake AI today with artificial intelligence. We expect it to be like iRobot, the Will Smith movie, and it's not there. It's almost very far from there, at least on the programmatic ad tech world, right? So maybe we should understand AI as automated intelligence, like Glenda referred to, is like how can we automate certain process? I like to say the mundane task of the taxonomy stuff or other forms of optimization when you have to bid up, down. Like this type of process should already be ruled out. We should be able to use rules to filter some of this, right? And so it's time for everybody to get on board with the AI boat. I don't think we should go full on 100% in it or yet. But what I want everybody to know is that you should be 100% learning about it and then activating it where it makes sense. But what I like to also say, and I can wrap up with this one, is that there's no point of rushing to learn AI if your foundational skills about this industry is not there. Because this is what happens 2 years after any big things that happen in our industry. Okay, I'm not going to name nothing, but everything is that once we get to that 2 year mark, we realize, oh, half of us are just being dragged along. We don't know why we're being dragged. We don't know the purpose of being dragged, honestly, but we are. And that's how we come across a lot of challenges in the future, because we keep missing, like we have holes, foundational holes that comes down to that education. How do things work at the at the auction, right? Like I heard Glenda say something about who's going to go in and do all of this. Like a block can literally have what, 12 category, one block, literally. And so when I only want to target mom who like chai tea, who have a teen or a tween in soccer, who also like jujutsu, like how can we make sure we target these people? Obviously this is a very extreme example, but this is when I think AI is going to change the game. And I'm going to give shout out to some of our clients like Chalice AI, who are doing a phenomenal job at trying to arm the buyer with making this decision, at least at the post bidding, and then reassessing from there. So based on the data we're acquiring, how can this AI can make us like even allocate the right amount of dollar down to that segment that I just referred to. It's not one size fit all, which should be the media all, but it is definitely something we have to start learning about right now. You have to implement it. And sometimes AI don't even look that sexy. Okay. It don't look that sexy. It's literally a project management tool. Okay. It's a ticketing tool. Okay. It's so don't be distracted with the whole beauty of AI should be like iRobot looking Will Smith. It can be as unique, as basic as automating something on a day-to-day. And so that's what we try to help see. Like shout out to Steph for looking at the workflow, because with no workflow, there's really no, everybody's running. What is it? What's the term? Chicken, cut off chicken heads or something like that?
Yes.
Listen,
Right.
that's
Chicken
what
with the head
happens.
cut off.
And it
Right.
doesn't matter if you're on the buy side or the side. If you don't have a legit workflow, whether it's implemented via tech or via humans or both, this is what can happen. And so you got to get with the program.
I think you hit on a very good point. A lot of people are confusing like what's happening in Gen AI
Yeah.
with what's happening with automation and RPAs, right?
Mhm.
And so all of this stuff is getting all fuddled. Is that a word? I don't know. Am I making up a word?
I don't know. I'm
All
going to
that's
write it
getting
down. Let's ask
fuddled.
ChatGPT if this is a word.
Yeah. But Steph, you built a custom AI? Did you build something?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I built like a custom AI. I did, but I will tell
Steph
you
is like,
something.
what happened
No,
was.
Green.
So
Tell us more.
So a very cool thing about working at Amazon is that Amazon, when we talk about AI, we're like doing the AI like in all the workflow that you could possibly do, right? So we have this very cool tool, and it's an internal use tool called Amazon Q. And Amazon Q, you can download it into your browser, and it can like quickly summarize like the docs I was talking about. It can quickly summarize a doc, right? So that you can get all the key points out of it. It can help you like rewrite. It can look at a web page, and it can pull out all of the most relevant information for you. It's like this massive, like it does this awesome job of being able to take something, distill it down, and stuff it in your, and like you can read it and stuff it in your brain much faster. And one of the cool things that you can do with Amazon Q is that you can build these personas. And Amazon Q is built on Amazon data. So Amazon data is fed into Amazon Q, and it can actually access a lot of like our internal proprietary data, and makes it so that it doesn't like, you're not using ChatGPT and using Amazon proprietary data in like other people's LLMs, and then it'll all mix it all up. That's really neat. But one of the things that I can do is I've created my own persona, and I've uploaded all of the docs that I've written into that persona, so that you can actually, it's actually trained on some of my strategy, and it's trained on some of the ways that I think. So you can ask it, you can say, what are the biggest problems facing media, entertainment, games, and sports customers as it comes to monetization? And it will pull out the key challenges that are facing them based on the documents that I've written. or what is the biggest opportunity right now in terms of, and it'll pull out that data for you. So like these types of tools, like the business application tools of just making you move faster, they're very cool. They're very helpful. And I have taken my own time. We've been talking internally at some of the women in AI groups at Amazon that like women are actually not adopting AI tools as quickly as men are. And so one of our big things is set apart some time for you. And I have an hour every Friday that if I read something about AI or there's a new tool I want to investigate or there's something that I really care about and I want to look deeper into, I put the link in the invite for my hour on Friday, and then I have the time for upskilling myself. Because one of the biggest things and one of the most important things for us to do while like AI is developing is like upskilling ourselves and sharing with each other what we're doing and how we're making our days more efficient with AI, because we don't want to fall behind. We want to make sure that we're staying on top of everything like we have been talking about before.
Yeah, that's so interesting that women are not adopting AI as quickly. It's fascinating. I guess it's like the same thing as women not being in STEM as much as men. It's the same thing there. With that in mind, what you just spoke to, taking that hour once a week or how often you do it for that learning, I'm curious about all of you. How are you keeping up with what's going on in the industry as tech is changing so rapidly? What are you doing to make sure you all are upskilling yourselves? Yeah. I think Steph spoke on it already, so that leaves it open to Glenda and Hélène.
I really like what she said about making the time. Sometimes we get so busy, not even productive. Sometimes we just get busy with everything in the world, including for me, like coworkers that I have to chase, and we forget to pour into ourselves. And I think it's our responsibility to continue learning for ourselves. So I shout out to Steph for doing this on a weekly basis. What I like to do is that I'm a big newsletter fan. Like I have AdMonsters. Shout out to UF Digital, one of their best newsletter out there. After AdMonster, obviously. After, they will agree with me. Duh. Don't want no problem with AdMonster. I won't get invited next time. But there are actually quite a few newsletters that I follow that I think like Marketecture is one of them that are really good. And so do your 5 minutes a day, just read an article, listen to a podcast, really schedule this into your day. And then the biggest thing you got to do is, like I heard Steph said, we have a group in a woman in AI group, and then we share with each other. The best way to learn today is to teach somebody else what you just learned. So my challenge to you listening or viewing or whatever it is, if you're capable of doing one article a day, one podcast a day, one webinar a day, whatever it is, do it. If it cannot be on a daily basis, can it be on a weekly basis? Sometimes it only takes 1 hour. And then you build that muscle, build that consistent muscle that you got to follow through. And in reference back to the newsletter, is sometimes when it's to deliver into your emails on a weekly basis, it's easy to just get through the email. Sometimes they even tell you how long it takes to read the whole newsletter. So what's your excuse? Oh, that's only 8 minutes out of my day to stay ahead of the game. Let's do it. So learn how, like, really make time. That's my best advice, is like I make time for certain things, and then I try to teach somebody else. And sometimes it starts with like even posting on LinkedIn, like post something on LinkedIn, teach somebody.
Dan said it's called taxonomy for a good reason. Tax, highlighted tackle. Okay. Joy Ross says, I don't agree with the generalization of women not adopting AI. She sees more women running AI solutions than men. I agree with you on that. So it was curious to me as well. Stephanie, this came from a study?
Yeah. When you say running AI solutions, what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know what she
I
means
love
by
you,
that.
Steph.
Yeah,
Elaborate.
I don't know how to answer the question unless I know what the statement is. Yeah, we've found like the adoption of tools, like the adoption of AI tools.
Okay.
Also the development of AI tools. Those were the two statistics that we looked at.
Okay. And Joy Dean asked about the newsletters. So Ellen mentioned AdMonsters newsletters. There's AdMonsters Wrapper.
Yeah,
Ad Exchanger has a bunch of newsletters. There's Marketecture's newsletter. There's AdTech God's newsletter. There's
The U of Digital
the
is one.
digital newsletter.
It's a really good one, yeah. Because
Yeah.
they give their own point of view and then they teach a little bit in it. U of Digital is an education institute, so definitely follow them. I'm a big fan of them.
I started to get into like outside, like I read all the ad tech newsletters, but also if you want just like tech newsletters, Stratechery is like a really good e-newsletter to read.
Wow.
Yeah, and has like because I have found that I tend to sometimes like only think about ad tech in like an embarrassing
What?
way. Yeah, what? Yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever. And so I was like, I think maybe it's time for me to also start to think about what are the applications of this skill set that I have in places other than
ad tech. Yeah.
Like, for me, I think on the other end of that, and like we all highlighted learning, on the other end, like my experience with trying to upskill myself is to actually, as a person that does product and just strategy in general and tries to figure out problems, I take whatever I've discovered and I sit with myself. It's like usually like on a Wednesday afternoon. And that's when I make a distinct amount of time for myself to develop a point of view on what I just read, like over the course of a week. So that is the application of what you've actually learned, like to actually develop a point of view as to how you feel about certain things. Because being in the space for a really long time, you can get caught up in like the echo chamber of everybody saying things like over and over again, 10 million different ways. And you really have no idea like how you feel about it. And you have to sit with yourself sometimes and develop your own point of view on the things that you just learned and discovered.
So good.
Dude, how many times do people say things in just different ways?
And
you're like, no, is this the same?
Like,
this is like, so I find this
some of it is basic. Like
I find this a lot in like web publishing and CTV, right? So now like that I moved from, I was at News Corp and now I'm like working with more customers who are streaming TV and they're like, everything's different in streaming TV. And I'm like, everything, right? And then they'll explain something to me and I'll be like, it's literally exactly the same in display. It's just, it's different. It's like, there's nuances. Yes. And I understand the nuances. I get them, but it's the same a little bit in a lot of ways.
Get out of the echo chamber. Discover how you feel about it.
One of the Amazon leadership principles is called invent and simplify. So it's like, I spend a lot of time thinking about something and then just being like, make this easier. What is this actually? What are we actually doing and talking about here?
Yeah, I always try to explain it to a 5-year-old. I swear you will see if the person truly understands the foundation of what they're trying to say when you break it down to one of my coworkers. And she's super smart. She turns 5. She knows her stuff, okay? But try to explain to her and see what happens.
I do that with my dad. So my dad is like he's like a 70, like he's a steel guy. He like was an accountant at a steel company. And I'm like, okay, Dad, he's got basic concepts of, he's got economics. He's got like certain things, right? So if I can explain it to him, like him, he gets it. I'm like, okay, great. I can explain it I can explain it to lots of different people who, if they have general business understanding and they know how to, okay, cool. Like I can explain it to somebody at AWS who doesn't have experience in advertising, right? Explain it to your 70-year-old dad.
Yeah, explain it to a boomer. It should be a newsletter.
Explain it to a boomer.
Oh,
we love them. This is no disrespect. I honor, validate, and respect you. But it could be a nice newsletter, Steph. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Anyway.
So the takeaways here are: make some space for learning, carve out some time for learning. When you're explaining things, either be able to explain it to a 5-year-old or explain it to a boomer.
This is a media company, by the way. Like, okay,
we have to explain it to boomers.
So those are key takeaways. Also, read up on everything, right? But also look outside of the fishbowl, right? Look outside of the fishbowl for innovation and new learnings. All right, so let's now get into making space for the next generation, and also let's get into allyship. So how do you guys make space for the next generation? Are you consciously, with DEI taking a back step right now, are you consciously, I don't know, are you consciously making space for underrepresented groups? how are you doing that? How are you bringing other people either into ad tech or even in your own teams, helping others become leaders? Yes.
Man, that's a heavy one. This is what I would say is that you do just that. You just invite people to the table. You just refer people to the table. And when you get to that table, you make sure you leave the door open for the next generation. But it's all in proximity. What I like to tell my allies, my men friends out here, or whoever you are that's not checking the same box as whoever's on this panel, for instance, spend time with us, spend time with that different culture, spend time with that different generation. The next generation, Jody said that they have a totally different vocabulary, which one of the words is skibbity. Really? Okay.
Skibbity toilet.
Like, no shade to them. And then they repurpose our key vocabulary. Like, vibes is a totally different thing. Anyway, I love them, but spend time with them. I always say that there's power in self-discovery, and it can start with proximity. Spend time with the people that you're trying to bring to that table. I said on Monday during our prep call, if you're looking around during happy hour, every time you go to happy hour with your coworker and they look exactly like you, maybe you should make a call and invite somebody else that look different than you, or somebody else than that. And so force yourself to be in this uncomfortable situation of being the only one, your turn, on that side. And so that's the best ways that to learn the difference in culture, to learn by proximity, is to call that person is, hey, what do you think? It starts with even standing up. Wait, hold on. Miriam was not done talking. Can she finish her train of thoughts? It's like speaking up for the others that maybe don't know they have a voice, because everybody has a voice. We're all worthy and deserving of being in the space we are in this moment. So let's recognize this, even if somebody told us not to. So maybe just reinforce that and be like, hold up, can you finish this? Or what do you think? And bring this person along with you. Because sometimes that's all it takes, is just holding somebody's hand, right? Because if they look like you, if you could relate to them 100%, you'd have done it so naturally. Oh, you know what? Come here. We see it every time I see Lynne, sometime at the conference. We don't even have to say anything to each other.
We just do
There's
this.
a certain level of understanding, right? Because that is the people I can relate to, even to some extent. She has difference. Like, you grew up differently, you shared. I grew up in West Africa, Catholic, and 95% of the population was Muslim, and I love them. But I grew up so close to that religion that I'm almost that I knew what the religion is about. And I have so much more empathy, sympathy, and compassion. But this is what I'll end, is that maybe instead of just practicing empathy, maybe we just start with compassion. Compassion is not the, oh, I feel so bad, or, I never did this, but I want to be here for you. Compassion is just, you're a human being, you're a child of God, and I will love and accept you the way you are, and we should just coexist this way, and that's it. And if I know I can help you, then I will help you. Ask this question: what is something I can do for you today? Who can I introduce you today? And then introduce the person, follow up on your words, right? Because we don't want to be out here lying to people. Like, genuinely be that person. And then you'll see how things are going to circle around, like just in your circle, in your environment. Be that person. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I think, like, from my perspective, I'm going back to the echo chamber thing, and also what, based on what Ellen said, imagine how boring it would be if, like, I don't know, the algorithm like curates a bunch of content in front of your face and like you're reading the same thing over and over again, right? There are people that exist on the fringe that have different perspectives that, like, ultimately you should make a part of the community that you bounce ideas off of, because a lot of product ideas, a lot of ideas, like a lot of the things that you incorporate in your life and your career, on those relationships that you develop with other people. If everybody looks the same, you already know what to expect. It's boring.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find it challenging, I think, to go approach people, I know that people are like socially awkward and we all like just interface like on the internets all day. But what you can do is you can acknowledge the fact that this is very socially awkward, number one. Number two, also create, as a manager, as a leader, you can create that psychologically safe space.
That's good.
Validated, and also to feel a sense of belonging. That's a basic human need. I would say, as a leader, as a manager, to create that environment where people feel understood, that people feel like they belong, they're more apt to contribute their voices to the conversation when they have that psychological safety, I'd say.
That's so good.
Yeah. Steph.
Yeah. So there's two things that I have concentrated on. One is like mentorship. So I'm like, it's like I'm incredibly busy every single day at Amazon. I'm also a mom, so I'm like not trying to work all the time. I'm trying to like have a nice work-life balance. I'm trying to also spend time with my kids and my husband.
Yeah.
I find if I find some like a woman, if I find a like an AWS startups account rep that I think has a lot of potential and is interesting and is like somebody who I think has potential, right? And is younger than me. Any sort of power that I have that I can impart knowledge on them, give them support in the organization, give them like being able to talk to them at people who are at the same level as me about how great those people are. Anything that I can do to lift up the people that I believe have a lot of potential, and bonus points if they're from underrepresented communities. So that's one thing, is like mentorship's very important to me, and it's very important to lift up the people who are very talented and might not get paid as much attention to because they're from communities that are underrepresented.
Mentorship is so good.
Mentorship, yes.
So good.
I love it, yes. And then the second piece is I spend a lot of time examining, we touched on it a little bit, like I grew up in a majority white like environment, right? And I didn't even know where biases sat and where biases didn't sit until I moved to New York City, and I sat around with a bunch of people who were totally different. I met my husband, whose friends are like every single color, every single religion, every single whatever. And I see them interacting in my house, joking around about stuff I would never say, but the way that they bounce things off of each other is like in this very comfortable, loving space, right? Because they all are into it. They all love it, right? And so this understanding race in this way, in this very like much more melting pot way, has changed how I see my own thoughts and how I see my own biases. So when you're sitting there in rooms where people are majority white, I spend a lot of time thinking or hearing what people say and questioning, is that actually rooted in bias? Is it not rooted in bias? I think about my own thoughts. Are they rooted in bias? Is this real, right? And working through that myself, but also asking questions if somebody else says something that I feel might be rooted in bias. If somebody says something like, they're like, she's a bitch, I am known to be like, oh, what about her makes her bitchy? Tell me more about it. Oh, is it because she tells you what she wants? Is it because she tells you what? And like actually taking people's biases and asking questions, not being like, I think you're racist, or I think you're sexist, or I think you're this right away, but asking questions about it and being curious about it so they can come to that own conclusion themselves, I think is a way that I've found has at least helped in these types of situations.
You touched on something. I genuinely detest when it's okay for a man to be straightforward, but when a woman is
Pet peeve.
she's a bean, or she's too aggressive, or
she's too passionate. I've been called passionate. I'm like, yes, I'm passionate. Dang, I like what I do.
Oh,
yes,
I get emotional, like all kinds of stuff, because I'm very direct. I'm very to the point. I'm very passionate. I'm like, but honestly, I just ask questions. Just ask a question about it. Really? Oh, I just feel, or I've said this to people. Sometimes I use, if I'm in a situation where multiple people are there, and then the person who does it to me, I might interface with another person and be like, hey, do you think he would have said that to me like that if I was a guy? Right. And getting also like having that conversation and easing it into just like general like workspace so that we can all decide together. I don't know. I feel like that might have just been said to me because I'm a woman. What do you think? And like getting that space or that understanding to understand bias better. Yeah.
That's so good. I like to always remind myself of this. My daughter only has 2 volumes. Both my kids only have 2 volumes. It's 2% and 110%. And the other day she was just like hollering. I'm talking about yelling. And I'm like, what in the Lord's name are you yelling about? And my husband was like, psst, she's singing. And I'm like, that is no singing. And he's is no singing to you, but to her, she was literally singing Moana. And then so when I started paying attention, I slowed down, right? I calm my overregulated self down. I realized she was actually singing Moana, make way, make way. And I was like, oh, and sometimes I like to refer to this in meetings when things get heated. I'm like, hold on. Nobody's leading yet, but let's allow the person to show their true form and then call them back into the conversation, like Steph said, right? But it took my husband to be like, hold up, boop, 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 boop. You're about to go 0 to 100 on her, and the poor girl's literally just tying her shoes, singing Moana. And so maybe it's time for you to be that person and be like, wait, hold on. Or maybe you need to nudge the person back, right? That's going 0 to 100 and be like, okay, in the sake of the productivity for this meeting, let's reassess what is the actual challenge that we're trying to answer, not the actual like person's behavior, and let's address it from that angle. And maybe it takes a one-on-one after that. Not everybody can take the heat in the kitchen, even though they want to stay in the kitchen, okay? But sometimes you have to take them in the back, take them in the pantry and have that one-on-one conversation. Be like, this is uncalled for. Here's how we could have handled it. Do you agree, yes or nah? You know what I mean? And when you receive that hard conversation, y'all, please just receive it in a way that is there learning for me, but also see the sign of a toxic environment, a toxic manager. You can smell it, you feel it in your guts. And that is why some of us mention mentorship, but there are community out there, and shout out to the Women in Programmatic Network that are in partnership of this panel. And then Advanced Women that's in the ATG Slack channel. Like, you can find your buddies, and literally I've had conversation with many women in those groups where I'm like, yo, was I really bitchy about this? Tell me, for real, tell me about it. And they'll be like, no. However, because you were trying to close this client, maybe this conversation should have happened. There's mentorship and coaching that can happen at the same time. But find your board of mentors, people that look like you, that understand you, but also people that don't look like you, so that you can really fill in all of those blanks. I literally have somebody from each deck and check a box in my board of mentors for a reason, because I know that this person that looks nothing like me, didn't grow up nothing like me, understands only one language, can really teach me things of me that speak more than one language. You know what I mean? So make that effort.
Yeah, I'm all about that. A mastermind group, right? So important to
Good.
build a mastermind group.
That's really good.
All right, you guys touched on the allyship aspect, but not fully. What does allyship look like? Can we smell it? Can we taste it? Is it real?
Oh, you can smell it. You can smell and taste it for reals. You can smell it. You can smell it. When I see another white man standing up in a meeting, like I said, and there's been several times where somebody did that to me in a meeting, where they were like, wait, hold on. This is literally what Ellen just said. In other words, what they were trying to say is you mansplain her, but he didn't say that. Obviously, he was much more diplomatic than me for a good reason. And he was like, actually, she literally just mentioned this. Can we hear her point? That's what it looks like, just using this voice. Like, you can smell and taste when somebody is really rocking hard for you for the sake, again, of productivity.
So
that's one example.
That is just like cutting through the noise and amplifying women's voices is huge. I am like middle of AWS, not important at all. I was in a meeting with the guy who is now the CEO of AWS, Matt Garman, and a big official meeting, had all like everybody who was important at AWS. I went to say something and somebody cut me off, and he stopped the meeting. He stopped the meeting and he went, Stephanie, I was like on video. He was like, Stephanie, you were saying something. Do you want to finish your thought? And it's like, I was like, oh my God, I get to finish not only did I get to finish my thought, but somebody cared enough about my thought that was like very high level in the conversation, right? Yeah. The person who was running it, right? And the other thing is, when I look at all the people that report to him, it is representative of 50% women, it is 50% men, it is representative of the US. And like, that kind of stuff is incredibly important, right? Mm-hmm. It's visible. It's like being able to open your mouth and give somebody a voice and give them the time and give them the energy. And you might think it's small, but just being aware, right? I was talking about biases. It's like just being aware, right? Being aware helps you to behave in such a way that it really helps to amplify voices.
Yeah, Glenda, do you have any words on that before I ask you guys your final question?
Oh my
here?
God. So, very briefly, I shouldn't even be here because a wonderful woman that I indirectly report to volunteered me to be sitting right here. And so, when I speak about psychological safety, and like that is built into our culture at PMC, and also to elevate women's voices was part of the reason why my indirect manager actually said, Glenda, you should be doing this. And I not only appreciate that, but I appreciate her like creating that space for me. It's not about like me creating space for others, but she also like she's an EVP, and she created that space for me to be able to like sit here today. And without her trying, without her even thinking about it twice, she just went, I know somebody that's perfectly capable of like talking about ad technology. Here is Glenda. Have you met Glenda yet? But again, it comes from above, and you pass it along as you walk through the door.
Yep, for sure.
I will also say that like when you talked about like DEI, like we don't need these companies to tell us that we're going to create diversity, equity, inclusion. We don't need leadership to do it. We should do it. They should. I'm like, they should, but we can also do it ourselves. We can also put our time, we can also put our energy, we can also put our mentorship, we can also put the power that we have, we can use by aligning together and by moving this forward so that no matter who owns our government and who tells us what we should and shouldn't concentrate on in terms of that, let's just keep going. Let's just keep rolling. Let's just keep going. The reason why this is happening is because they're scared that we're getting too much power as women, and we just need to keep rolling with it. And we just need to look out for each other.
And it's unfair that we have to put so much more effort, and it shouldn't be that way. I think every single one of us at some point on this panel or in the chat, I see most of you, and have been like, I'm just so damn tired. Okay. But let me just say this to you. If this is you right now in this moment, I hear you, I recognize you, I validate how you are. Pour into yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. It doesn't matter what you check, what box you check, but make sure you take care of yourself. I think we mistake expertise, ad tech, I know everything, all the things, but if you is not a good person and you don't take care of this person first, you can't be a good expert in ad tech for nothing, or at least not for too long, boo. So remember to take care of you first. If it's shutting down this computer, shut down the computer, go do some jumping jacks after. Drink your water. Sometimes it starts with just drinking water. If some of you need to hydrate.
What about my red wine?
Okay. Yeah, red wine. You can
Mental
do that
health
too.
holiday.
Yes, make sure you pour into yourself. And keep going. I like that.
On par with your mind.
Yes. Ravina said tired.
Yes.
Oh, Ravina.
I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you.
But keep going. Like Steph said, you got to keep going. Just
We
pour
have
into
all
yourself,
felt
keep
that at
going.
one time or another. I remember many years ago, there was a woman who wrote a book called Lean In. And that lean in idea only works for people with privilege.
Yep.
If you know what I mean. Right? Yes, women can have it all, but you have to take care of yourself to
Please.
have it all, right?
Please.
Yep.
All right. So we have run over. So I can't even ask you the forward.
Really? We just started.
I know. I feel like we just got
Lightning
here.
round. Lightning round.
Yeah, a real lightning round. What
Okay.
is one idea, opportunity, trend, something that you have your eye on in the industry, outside the industry for the rest of 2025? Lightning round. Come on. One idea, trend, opportunity.
I think flexibility in work. I know a lot of us are going back into return in office, but like I still want to see some flexibility returning to office. So like I'm paying attention to that trend wise.
Okay.
AI, workflow efficiency, whether that be work, whether that be personal life, whether it be anything. Make everything more efficient. Use technology where you can.
Yes.
And Glenda?
I am into AI at the intersection of health. Is what I think.
That's
through.
good.
Yes, of course. And then I just have a couple of slides to show really quickly Sell-Side Summit coming up August 17th through 19th, 2025. You can, if you're at the screen, snap that QR code to get your discount. We can also make this available if you reach out to me, LYNNE at AdMonsters.com. If you missed the QR code, I will get you that discount. Also, here's another QR code. We are taking a survey for the sell side. What are identity solutions missing? Oh, they're missing a lot. And according to Shiv Gupta from U of Digital, most of them are BS. So, vaporware. So let's take this survey and help the sell side figure out what is and what isn't with identity solutions. And then finally, Programmatic IO is coming up next month. We are focusing on innovation at Programmatic IO. You want to join us in Las Vegas? Get this QR code and get your discount. I want to thank the women in Programmatic. I want to thank Glenda, Steph, and Ellen for this wonderful session. I wish we could go on longer. I might have to recreate this at an AdMonsters event. Loved it. Thank you again, Women in Programmatic. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.